This is my buddy Pearl. Isn't she a good-looking girl? She's beautiful. And this is Pearl's roadmap to success. Now, Pearl's going to be pretty tired. We just got done doing a 3-hour session, and at the end of it, we just shot the video above, which wasn't the best video I shot, but the Guardian was actually happy that that dog ran out in the middle of the video because that's what she experiences a lot. Quick little public service reminder, if you have a dog that is really good with other dogs, just don't let her run up to other dogs. She's not really great with that, so that could have been a fight. I was there to manage it and kind of keep that other dog away, but just be responsible with your dog. And there's an expression like, "It's okay, he's friendly," is usually the person who cannot control their dog got off the leash and they're trying to make you feel okay. But your dog might be friendly, the dog your dog meeting might not be friendly. Even if she is most of the time, she doesn't like having her butt sniffed. So let's talk about that video and some things we can do. So what the instructions, what I'd like her Guardian to do, yes, is I'd like her to start practicing having Pearl have her butt sniffed. Now, obviously, if she's, and the reason I believe that she doesn't like having her butt sniffed is because dogs can smell if another dog is insecure or not confident by sniffing their butt. And so because she was sent to a board and train who probably punished her for reacting if another dog sniffed her butt, she was like, I don't like that. And they're like, no, bad dog. That could have been what it was. It could have, there have been a lot of reasons. I don't want to spend a lot of time guessing on that because I'll never know. But what I do want is I want her to practice. Now, I cheat. I set the dog up for success and I control as much as I possibly can. So what I would like to do is right now, the dog that we met earlier is her friend. She can, that dog can sniff her butt. So what I would do is have you walking that dog, your Pearl, and that other dog walking behind you. Every time that dog sniffs her butt, yes, and gets a treat. And they're playing. Every time the dog sniffs her butt, yes, and have to give her a treat. Now, you saw the other dog, it was Sunny, right? Sunny really started wanting to get the treat. So you might use a lower value treat, maybe like a Charlie Bear that doesn't have quite as much of a smell. You use too higher a treat and the dog wants to do it. And when you're doing this, don't give the other dog any treats. Don't start off by giving a treat because you're saying, I got treats and that's all the dog's gonna want. Yes, we'll talk about celebrating in a minute. So we want that dog just to not worry about it, and we want her just to get the positive emotional, we're changing her emotional state. So every time that she gets her butt sniffed, she gets a treat. Now, with the dogs that she already knows, she probably can get sniffed for a little bit longer, but really what I want her to do is if this is her butt, this is really weird approximation, boom, treat, and then the other dog gets pulled away. So at first it's literally just a brief, tiniest of sniffs, and then there's distance. And that's why if you're walking, you lead the other dog up to her butt, it sniffs, and then that person can stop and you can keep on walking, and so that we don't have that extended. Now we do want extended butt sniffing. So eventually a quarter of a second, then a half a second, then a a full second, 2 seconds. Don't jump too big though. If she starts growling or she gets stiff, that's her way of saying I'm uncomfortable. We want this to be a positive experience for her. So now that's with dogs that she already knows. She's got 3 dogs that are buddies. So I would, when they're together, have treats ready to go, and every time that she gets sniffed, yes, and then give her a treat. Now, now I'd also like to start doing this with dogs that she doesn't know. Her Guardian really wants to do that. So what I would do is in the part of LA that we're at right now, there's a lot of dogs. What I would have you do is when you're out and about, if you are with her and you could talk to them, great. But if you're just out and about and you see somebody with a dog, especially a dog that she growled at or whatever, just befriend that person. Hey, you know, I see your dog. I'm the one with the spotted pitty. Yeah, her name is Pearl. She is a sweetie, but your dog is really sweet as well. Compliment him a couple times. Just like, do you walk your dog a lot? Do you know, in the neighborhood? Well, my dog doesn't like having her butt sniffed. I'm looking for other dogs we can kind of become friends with and go for little walks together. Oh yeah, I walk every day at 4:30. Great. Would you mind if we, exchange numbers or whatever it is? So what you want to do is get them walking together. Don't worry about the sniffing. We don't want actually any sniffing the first couple times. And don't give that other dog any treats. I would probably have you not give that dog attention. I would even tell the person, like the behavior person I talked to said, I should probably not give your dog a lot of attention for this so that my dog can focus on me and not have your dog trying to get attention from me. Not that I don't like your dog. Make sure you tell them. Otherwise, people sometimes take that personally. Yes, she's a little aroused, and that's why she's being a little mouthy, because she's overly tired. So we could do a little bit of that cookie in the corner. And if I can get one out, find it. Yes, find it. There we go. So giving her something else to do. All right, so we want to walk with the stranger dog once or twice so that she just gets used to being side by side. And it might have to be a little bit further away, maybe human and dogs on the outside, but eventually we'd like the dogs on the inside where they're walking next to each other, but not really a lot of interaction, a little bit of sniff, just bumping into each other and seeing each other, but they're both moving forward. And after maybe 2 walks, whenever she seems to be pretty comfortable with the other dog, then I would, like, on the next walk, I would start the walk and just be like, have them step off to the side, you walk past them, they walk up behind you, and you've got those treats, and you're kind of holding the treats out like I was showing you, and you're holding the treat out and giving your dog, and every time that dog sniffs your dog's butt, you say yes and release treat, yes and release treat, yes and release treat. So you're probably going to release a lot of treats, but make sure you let the other person know, we only want to do that for, like, the first sniff should be just a half of a second maximum, then stop walking, and we'll continue walking and that increase the distance. If it goes well, then you slow down and let them catch up and do another 1/2 second butt sniff and then walk. So on a walk, after they've gotten to know each other for 2 or 3 walks, now you might be able to go on a walk and have them behind each other, and that dog, she's used to that dog being behind her. She's used to feeling that dog's whiskers and sniffing her butt for a half a second and then a full second, and she's more interested in getting the treats, and she's not worried about the other dog because she's already met because you did a little bit of extra work. And this is, we talked about this off camera with your mom. But we'd love everything to go fast, but it isn't. We need to set things up. And the Guardian here works in the entertainment field. We don't just, you probably just don't shoot a scene. They light the scene, I mean, all the stuff that's going on, the camera angles and, the continuity and all the rest of that stuff. Think about all the stuff that goes in before you actually shoot the scene. Same thing for her. We need to do everything we can to set her up for success. So eventually the goal would be, like, you're on a walk and then that other dog can come up behind her and sniff her for like 2 seconds. Yes. And then 3 seconds, and you're holding those treats out. Now, eventually, we would like to transition, but I don't want you to be in a hurry to do this transition. Eventually, it would be you're both walking, the dog sniffs her without you holding the treats in front of her, and then you say yes and give her a treat. Now, that's where we would like to be eventually. That's more of a operant conditioning, really. The dog sniffs my butt, then I get a treat. Now, when you're walking and the dog's sniffing her butt, you're delivering treats. You're just doing desensitization and counter conditioning. You're just treat, 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 treat. And when it comes to treats, get a high value treat. That freeze-dried beef liver might not even be enough. So if that's the case, when it comes to food, the smell is most important. Temperature is number 2. Taste is actually a distant third. So get yourself some warm chicken. Now, if you use one of these, maybe put a plastic bag in it so it doesn't get all greasy. So you're doing the warm chicken, just something super high value. She's not going to turn around and go for the other dog. Just make sure the other dog doesn't guard food and she doesn't guard food. And the idea is eventually now you've got buddies that you're going after 2 or 3 walks. You're walking around, you're walking in front, their dog's walking up behind your dog, sniff, and then you give a treat. But again, if you have to just every time they're doing it, and you might want to tell them, hey, every time your dog is about 3 seconds away from sniffing my dog's butt, I'd like you to go, and then when I hear that, I immediately move my hand in position. I'm delivering the treat, sniffing happens, and I'm delivering treats, and then they stop. And all they have to do is stop just so we have a couple of feet that incorporate in between the 2 of them. And then you keep doing that. So now you get her used to now a new dog sniffing her butt and gradually sniffing her dog for longer and longer periods of time. Eventually you get to the point where she's just like, dog sniffs my butt, I get a treat. Can we get more dogs around here to sniff my butt? She's going to be a weirdo asking her to get her butt sniffed. Now, you can do other things as well, but it gets a little bit convoluted if you use a barrier. Using a barrier would be great, but getting her with her butt up against a fence so the other dog can sniff it becomes a little bit problematic. It might make her feel defensive, and she feels the dog there. For a dog, whatever's behind me, I feel I'm defenseless too. Since she's already insecure about having it, using a fence like that is going to be pretty hard. If you're going to do that, make sure you're not man or woman handling her. Use that hand targeting that I showed you. And you might, now what I do is I practice. So if there's a fence here and I want to practice this, I would probably practice having Pearl put her backside up against that fence while I'm giving her a treat without another dog there. And I practice that, and then we walk a couple feet away, come back and reposition her. Her butt's against the fence, get yes and get your treat, walk away. So you get her used to that interaction in that position, in that location without the presence of the other dog. And then eventually you have the other dog like 5 feet away from the fence, and you have her do it, and then have them bring that other dog up, and you're giving her the treats so fast that she's interested in the treats, and the other dog is sniffing her at the barrier through the chain link fence, and you know if she does turn around and launch, she's not going to make contact with him. Now if she growls, that's her way of saying, I'm uncomfortable. That's a cutoff signal. We're going to listen for and respect that. So if the other dog is sniffing, and tell your helper, hey, if she growls at all, immediately pull your dog away. We want to stop immediately when that happens. Because she growls, she's saying a bite is coming if you don't listen to the growl. So if we listen to the growl, and the other dog goes away, she recognizes I don't have to turn around, and she doesn't practice turning around and launching at the other dog, which is practice at that as well. Yeah, you're gonna be pretty tired when we get done with this. All right, the last thing I did talk about in the video, and the Guardian said she didn't really want to do that, is nobody wants to use a muzzle. Nobody wants to put their dogs on meds, nobody wants to use a muzzle. I understand that, but a muzzle is a tool that keeps the other dogs safe. Now, if you do want to do it, follow the muzzle training that I put in the video there and get her used to it, where you can have her wearing a muzzle here. She's not trying to knock it off, and she's comfortable, and I like them to wear it about 5 times without needing it for every 1 time that we need it. So that way when you're using it, and I would probably end up, if you're going to do this, I would have her walking with the harness on, with the muzzle on. And that actually may help you with one of the problems that we have is a lot of people are doopsie-doo. They let their dog just run right up to her off leash. Well, if you have a dog, if you see a dog on a muzzle, most people understand that that dog is a potential bite risk, and they keep more distance, and they're a little bit more respectful. And I have some people, clients, that have their dog wear a muzzle, and their dog is not a bite risk. They're just fearful of people petting them. And they said, as soon as I put the muzzle on, nobody tries to mess with my dog, and my dog is comfortable. So it's a tool that we can use. Now, when I'm using the muzzle, that would be something I'd probably use on those walks. Now, the muzzle, it takes a little dexterity, but you can feed treats through that muzzle pretty easily. And then that way, if we read it wrong, if she does turn around and that person isn't paying attention, she's not going to actually be able to bite that dog. But we don't want her just say, well, she's on a muzzle, so now I can do whatever I want. The muzzle will make her feel a little bit more, could make her feel more insecure if you don't positively have her practice doing that. So yes, and I feel for you, because I would like to okay, we're gonna rep this 28 times. Remember, roller coaster, this is a very intense experience for her. So when we're doing this walk, you're already walking her, and then the dogs came up and sniffing my butt. That makes it a very intense experience. So maybe have that happen, for maybe a minute, and then we're just walking side by side. And then we go back to the one dog in front and getting a sniff for maybe a maximum of a minute, but not all at once. So like a second, and then they drop back. 20 seconds go by, a second, they drop back. So during that minute, there might be about 4 or 8 seconds of actual butt sniffing, and then little breaks in between. If you see her go like that and shake it off, especially after a sniff, that's a way of releasing anxiety. You should say yes and definitely pet her for that or give her a treat. That's like a friend of yours, like, oh, I was so stressed, and oh, now I feel better. Good. We want to reward and reinforce that. Okay, now the Guardian sent her to a couple board and train, or one board and train, and another trainer that used an e-collar. Is that right? Okay, so don't use an e-collar. Don't send your dog to a board and train. There's only 2 that I would recommend out of like the 300 I know. A lot of them use a lot of bad tactics. She did not have this problem until after she went to a board and train. So that tells me that there was probably some punishment going on. And if she growls and she's saying, I disagree, I feel uncomfortable. And a lot of these force punishers, you will not growl. I'm going to punish you. I'm going to shock you. I'm going to spank you for doing that. Well, shit, now I have to turn around and bite because I'm not allowed to growl. I shouldn't curse, sorry. All right, so we are 100% force and punishment free, so we started off by going over marker words. The Guardian loaded it. By the time you see this video, you should be done with it. So make sure you keep the loading in your mind. Walk around your house, yes, treat, and get that treat in your mouth as fast as you can. And do that with about 12 treats. Do that maybe twice today, 2 times tomorrow with yes, and the same thing with a clicker. Click, treat. Click, treat. Now, don't ever click and say yes. It's like saying Elva. They're the same thing. The difference is the clicker works better. So on walks, I would prefer that you use the clicker, unless the other dog's been clicker trained. That might create some problems. But that's going to be she's going to learn better with that, and it's a more distinct sound. It'll work better in the environment. Before I get on to summarizing, also when you're doing that sniffing, don't let the sniffing happen when there's a beeping, a buzzing, like we talked about the leaf blowers. That's the time where we're just walking. And then when it's quiet, that's when you allow the butt sniffing to go on. So make sure you're mindful of your environment. There's no cars or buzzing or any of those other things that we filter out that can actually cause her to become stressful. All right, we also went over hand targeting. I have a video on that one if you need me to do that. And again, use that instead of kind of nudging her. And use that to reposition her and practice that to the point where you can have her like in your bedroom and you just say smash and she runs over and smashes that nose into her hand. That can be a nice alternative recall. Okay, we also went over dog consent. So remember, cutoff signals for dogs: lowering my head, turning away, flipping my ears back, turning away and lowering my head, crouching down, tail going between the legs, licking the lips, looking at you, refusing to look at you, avoidance, or looking at you from the side with a lot of white in the eye. Baring the teeth is a pretty obvious one. Rolling over her back saying, please, I'm being submissive, please don't do that. So we want to watch for those cutoff signals. Now, if I'm trying to trim her nails and I touch her and she pulls her paw back, that's a cutoff signal too. So watch for cutoff signals. If she is resisting an interaction with us, then I ask myself, how can I make it easy? Like, so for this, if I touch her paw and she pulls her paw back, how would I fix that? I'd pull out a treat. Well, can you see her in the shot? So I would go like this and then touch the paw and then release the treat. So now if I touch, well, she's okay with me doing it. But if I touch and she pulled her paw back, that's her way of saying no. So that's the way I do it is I pair it and hold this, not a talking bird, pair. And I touch and then I release the treat and that touch goes away. So now, and then after we do that enough, then what I do is the dog's practice, then I touch, then I give the treat. So the touch becomes an indication I'm about to get a treat. That's operant conditioning. And that's what I was talking about the dog. The dog sniffs my butt and then I get a treat afterwards. But if you want to create a positive association from hunch, just giving her treat while that butt is getting sniffed, that's counter conditioning. That also changes the emotional response. That's totally fine to do as well. Usually you would do the desensitization counter conditioning. So treat while the dog's sniffing my butt. And eventually the dog sniffs my butt, then I give a treat. That would be the next final stage. All right, so we went over, so for that, so ask people if people want to pet her. Can I say hi to your dog? Yeah, we just ask people to hold their hand out so she can let us know she wants a pet. That's consent. And so tell them, and then she likes being pet under her chin. Otherwise, they'll reach over her head. So remember, try not to do that. And unless you're kind of petting her here, and then you work your way on top, that's okay. All right, let me see. We also, and use the ringworm thing, but if people are not listening to you, literally just walk away. Don't worry about being nice to them. And you can just call away if you do feel like you're being a jerk. Like, sorry, my dog sometimes, she was getting stiff and I was worried she's going to bite your dog. We'll see you another day, and just keep walking. You're being responsible and you're also being your dog's guardian. And that's all you need to be worried about. All right, we also talked about creative forms of exercise. So playing tug of war, playing fetch, putting a doggy backpack and putting weight in it like water bottles or something like that. That helps make the walk more efficient, provided your dog doesn't have any mobility issues, which I don't think she has. Also playing fetch, and if you're playing fetch, you can add structure. Sit, yes, treat. Fetch, as I throw the object, she goes and gets it. I wait for her to bring it back to me. Then I hold the treat out. She drops it. I say yes, put the treat in her mouth. Sit, yes, and then I throw it. So I'm incorporating a little bit of structure, asking her to sit in a game that she likes to play. And a fetch is a wonderful way to burn energy. Yes, you're a goofy girl. I love you. She is a sweet girl. All right, so there's also mental stimulation, like letting your dog sniff on walks is kind of a hybrid between the two of them. But other things that you can do would be feeding her out of a snuffle mat. The one that I like is the Runda, R-U-N-D-A. You can get that on Amazon. The orange ball that I showed you is an Omega Paw Tricky Treat ball. I would get the large one for her. And don't put wet food in it. And then once you get the last couple pieces for that one, they'll like rip it open to see why it's not paying off. And the first couple times you might have to roll it for her. And every time she looks at the treat, say yes, yes. And after a while, when she nudges it with her nose, say yes. And eventually put that thing down and she nudges it around the house while your housekeeper is cleaning or while your guests are here. You're giving her something else to do. And then when it gets the last two pieces, I either put it back up or I just shake it until I get those last couple pieces out. But don't leave that toy out. There are other treat dispensing toys and puzzles you can get. I just don't like the puzzle ones where they have to move things because she's a smart dog. She's probably just going to go move, 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 and then lick up all the food. If it's a ball or a flying saucer or something like that, it always rolls a little bit different. This looks a little bit shifty. All right, so let me see. So the idea is to come up with, and I would go for your long morning walk. Here, you can just hold that. I don't mind her being in the shot, but her mom doesn't want her to be being pestering for me, which I don't mind. But basically, celebrate. There we go. And so the idea is take that long walk that you're taking now, but then try to incorporate like 1 minute of training. Teach her to back up. Excuse me. And then release the treat. Yes. So that's how you teach her to back up. And I've got a video on that one I can share with you as well. So spend 2 minutes training her 4 times a day in between those walks. Feeding her twice a day. So if you do 4 training sessions, 4 2-minute training sessions, and feed her out of a snuffle mat twice a day, that's 6 extra forms of exercise you got her. You take her out for 2 walks, that's probably gonna be enough for her. But you can always play fetch in the house and things along those lines. So come up with a schedule that's right for you. And remember, you can always use exercise to set her up for success. You're gonna have your housekeeper come over, exercise her first. If you're gonna work on the sniffy thing, find out the right amount of exercise, celebrate, to give her without being too much. If you over-exercise her, that's going to make it backfire. So for before the sniffy walks, where the dog's sniffing her butt, I would probably only exercise her maybe like a 5-minute walk or like a 2-minute game of fetch or 1-minute game of tug. And remember, after exercising, she always needs 10 or 15 minutes to recover before the next thing happens. Celebrate. There we go. Guardian's learning that. So speaking of celebrating, what happened was she just laid down on her own. And so the guardian said yes and petted her. So celebrating is when the dog does a desired behavior on its own. We say the marker word and pet them under the chin or on the chest. Yes, she came to me. I didn't ask her to, but that's still a desirable trait. And then I can pet her as much or as little as I want. Now, the other side of that coin is manners. So sit. Sit. She's not sitting, so I'm not saying the marker word and I'm not petting her, I'm not engaging with her. Now, so I don't believe in punishing dogs, and so my punishment, if there was one, was not giving her the thing she wanted, the pets. Now, if she does that again, sit. So I give her about 2 or 3 seconds. She doesn't do it, that's fine. I'm not punishing her, I'm not mad, but she's not getting the attention. She can lick me. And I would recommend for this, I forgot to go over this earlier, get her a lick mat. Dogs have oral fixations just like we do. A lick mat is a silicone mat, and get one with suction cups, that you can put peanut butter, cream cheese, or frozen yogurt on. Celebrate. And so you put it, licking makes her feel good. It also becomes a compulsive habit sometimes, and it also could be a way of her showing affection. If she likes to do that and you don't want her to do it like us, give her an appropriate place to do the licking. So she sits here and licks at the cream cheese, and she gets all her licks out. She comes over and she just nuzzles with your guest instead of actually trying to lick them. Doesn't bother me. You just ask the guest, hey, if it bothers you, I got a great, easy way to stop it. Some people, you remember, have a social thing. They think that when they come into your house, they have to be friends with your dog, so they'll put up with stuff that you don't want. And you also, as a guardian, are like, I don't want my dog to be a nuisance. So kind of between the two of us, just have a frank, honest conversation with your guests. Okay, so let me see. So celebrating is when she voluntarily does things that we want. Right here, she was kind of demanding attention in a way that the guardian doesn't like. I was okay with, and I understand. I'm the same way with my dogs. So what I did is I asked her to sit. I gave her the do-over concept. I asked her to sit one time. I think one of those I asked twice. But I asked her to sit one time. I give her like 3 to 5 seconds. If she doesn't sit, then I go back to doing what I was doing. And after a while, she's going to learn, every time I sit, she pets me. That's the celebrate part. And then when I come over and nudge her, and she tells me to sit, and I sit, she says the marker word, so I know it's what she wants, and then she pets me. Maybe I should just go up and sit in front of her to ask for that attention, because you do that with the celebrating, and eventually she'll start sitting to ask for that attention. So that's just way of training her to have good manners, essentially. Those are the 2 words that I like to use. So if I'm sitting here and she comes and sits next to me and I don't see it, somebody says celebrate, I just say yes and start petting her. I don't need to know what it is. But if she's nudging me and I'm petting her, not paying attention, I'm maybe watching TV and I'm petting her while I'm not mindful of what's going on. Somebody says manners, I'm like, oh, sit, yes, and then pet her under her chin. Then I pet her as much or as little as I want. Now, if she sits and I pet her, and then she sits and I pet her, and she sits and I pet her, she's probably saying I'm bored. Take her out for a 5-minute sniff walk. Play a little game of fetch. Give her something to chew on. She's bored. So we can get frustrated when I got to edit. Leave me alone. I got to edit. I got to finish. I'm under deadline. She'll do it over and over again. Just take 2 minutes and take her outside for a bathroom break and bring her back in. She'll lay down. So it's managing your dog. The guardian here really loves her dog and has done a really good job. And she's reached out for a lot of help. Unfortunately, she's got some people who we wish she wouldn't have run into before, but now she's asking the right questions, and now she understands to be your dog's advocate. So even if I'm working with a dog, I tell my client, if I'm doing something you don't feel like your dog's comfortable, stop me. I don't want to do anything. Now, I should be able to recognize for what I do, but being your dog's guardian or advocate helps your dog feel comfortable and relaxed around you. And if your dog is relaxed around you, it might be more likely to be okay with having its butt sniffed and things along those lines. So I would get an Omega Paw treat ball, get a snuffle mat, and start working on that so you have some exercise stuff that you can do in the house. Get some collagen sticks, bully sticks. Cow kneecaps are my dog's favorite. But you can get duck's head, chicken feet, ox tail. If you go to like Kreiser or and not like Petco or PetSmart, but if you go to those higher end stores, they're gonna have like a buffet bar of animal parts. Go and get a whole bunch of them. See what your dog really likes and have a handful of those in the cupboard. That way if something happens, you have a guest come over unexpected and she's licking you, you're mortified. Give her a bully stick, just like I gave her the collagen stick. She's gonna go over and chew it there. Now, where I'm sitting, I would like you to get a dog bed and put it right here because, again, the way that your house is set up, putting the dog bed over there, there's nothing wrong with it, but I think for her, she's going to feel excluded if you're hanging out with your boyfriend or your friends and she's got to go over there. This way, she has a place she can go here. Now, I just shot a video yesterday on how to teach your dog to go to the dog bed, so I invite you to go and look for that. I'm trying to think, that dog's name is Mojo. So if you're on my website, you just search for Mojo, M-O-J-O, and that you'll be able to find it. But if you're on my website, it should be the one directly above you. And that was a video that'll teach you how to get your dog to go to the dog bed and how to stay on the dog bed using positive reinforcement. I don't know what the other trainers did to teach the dog to go to the dog bed there. And they might have used the shock collar and some other stuff that she still does it, but she might be doing it because I'm forced to, and she seems to like it, so I don't think that's the case, but you just never know. But watch that one because we want to be positive reinforcement. Also, keep in the back of your mind, how can I make things easier? If doing this all at once is too much, make this into 2 steps or 4 steps or 8 steps. And then practice just step number 1 over and over till the dog can do it easily. Then go to step 2. And eventually you string all those steps together. And again, if she growls or gets aggressive, that's her way of saying, I disagree or I feel uncomfortable, move her away from the object. If you have to, you can pull her away. And if you know there's, like I said, if you see a certain dog in the neighborhood that she just really is not liking, start walking with them. And you might have to do it where they're on the other side of the street and you're on the other side of the street. And your dog looks at her, yes, and give her a treat. So all you do is look at the other dog, and I get a treat now? Yes. We're changing that emotional state, and eventually you can get closer and closer. But try to look for some dogs in your neighborhood and have about 3 or 4 walks, then try to do that follow walk that I described in this. Again, for like about a minute, and then go back to walking together as a group, and then for a minute or 2, let her kind of relax, and then go back to doing it. And the last thing I will talk about is her body language. So we talked about it off camera on the walk. Her ears, when she pins her ears back, when they go backwards and back and are laying on the back of her skull, that's a big indicator she feels uncomfortable. She gets hackles, the hair on her spine stands up. That can be a sign of arousal. Her tail, is it going up or is it tucked under her legs? If it's tucked under her legs, she's not feeling comfortable. I wouldn't let her meet people or people meet her or approach her. Is she breathing heavy or holding her breath, or is she breathing normally? Is her body loose and wiggly and jiggly, or is it stiff and still? Stiff and still is a warning. And a lot of times, I think I mentioned in the other video, but like the dog's like. So if you see your dog like going open mouth and relaxed to suddenly closing its mouth, staring with hard, open, unblinking eyes and a closed mouth, that's a warning. I don't like what you're doing. You got my attention. So that's the case. If the other dog thing doesn't go away, you call her away. So she feels like all she wants is more distance. If you incorporate, she doesn't have to do it herself. Also, is she leaning towards something or leaning away? Her eyes. Right now, she's giving me the sleepy eyes, squinty eyes. That's a good positive. And I think she's just doing it because she's going to sleep. But learn to recognize and read your dog's body language. And also, we have instincts for a reason. If your gut tells you that she's not comfortable, listen to your gut. Be conservative. Don't push her and put her into situations where she might react because she is practicing that unwanted behavior. The idea is just to keep on building positive associations because you're controlling the scenario and the situation. There's no crazy sounds. We've walked this dog a couple times. We're only letting him sniff for a brief second, and I've got really super duper happy super duper tasty treats. So if I don't have any of those elements, hey, we want to do some butt sniffing? I don't have any treats right now. Maybe we can do it tomorrow. Don't risk it, and don't take your progress for granted. Last thing, dog training, and just like us, is not a linear process. Don't expect that every day is going to be better. You're going to have great days, and then one of those days you're just going to have a bad day. It's not going to go well. People are like, it stopped working, David. Not stopped working. It's just like you have a bad hair day. Sometimes it happens. So just, if that's the case, it's not going well, separate, do something good and positive, and then try again another day. Now, when it comes to dog training and behavior modification, we always want to keep it short. 1 or 2 minutes for training. I'd like 1 to 2 minutes or 2 to 3 minutes. For behavior modification, like a minute maximum of a time. But again, shouldn't be a minute of butt sniffing, a minute of 1 second butt sniffing, and then 5 or 10 minutes of rest, 1 second of butt sniffing, back and forth, and gradually you can start elongating those. So make sure you keep those short and more frequent as opposed to longer and less frequent because it's just not going to work as well. And practice in different areas also that's why that walk will be helpful. If you only practice in your living room, I can have my butt sniffed here, can't do it in the dining room. So we want a lot of variety in our practice. Now, what I'd recommend you do is watch the video above and watch this video. Watch this video particularly like once every weekend until when you watch this video, there's nothing new in it. At that point, you're still having issues, let me know. I have a friend who's got a dog named Wasabi who's a doodle mix but looks like a golden, and we can arrange another session if we need to work on this stuff. If you have difficulty, if you have a friend who can join you who does not handle the dog, who videotapes it, you can send me a videotape, how old am I? Text me a video clip and I can see it, but try to keep it sideways and try to be far enough away where I can see both dogs. And sometimes people send me it's too close or it's just so short I can't get the context of what's going on. But just go slow and steady and recognize that although it's going to take a little bit longer, the goal is eventually, hopefully we set it up to the point where she can get her butt sniffed and she's comfortable with it. And we might decide and find out that, she can get her butt sniffed by dogs that she knows and nobody else, and everything else we have to do a maintenance thing. It happens. Sometimes it happens. I don't want to make you or have you have unrealistic expectations. Just because we want something doesn't mean we can always achieve it. So we have to go at the dog's pace and by going slow and steady. And she is a beautiful girl, and her guardian they just have a really beautiful relationship. So I know that she's in really good hands and she's going to go slow and steady. But if you have questions, you get hung up on stuff, don't hesitate to call or text me. All right, I do need to get you to come and sign up the shot. Can you come over here? Sit. What a happy girl she is. Boy, you luck out. I don't know who's luckier, your guardian or you. All right, this is my buddy Pearl, and this is Pearl's roadmap to success as she gets a wiggle butt. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.